Hi, everyone. Welcome to the video podcast as Product Manager Thought Collectives. Today we have Amanda here, and I'm really excited to talk to you since you are kind of deep into the creator space as well. So the first question I have it would be, could you please introduce yourself who might not be familiar with the creator management space? And then what are some updates you have both in working life over the last 2 years?
Yeah, so my background is, I've worked in real estate for 10 years, but I've been managing John for the last two years, starting, from small channel. Now we're almost at 500,000 views. We've worked with some of the biggest creators on the platform. As you mentioned earlier, we just interviewed Mr. Beast, and my role is I run all our partnerships, I do all our hiring. That means negotiating every revenue that comes into the business. I take care of all our operations, all our meetings, so John can focus specifically on the content. Yeah.
So, what are some updates you have? Did you transition to this role in the last 2 to 3 years, or this is fairly? It's been longer than that.
Well, it's funny. Initially, when John started to do this full time, yeah, as you know, or John worked in tech before, doing product marketing, working at YouTube internally and Instagram. And so when he first wanted to do this, I thought, or we discussed it, and I thought, maybe you should have an industry manager who's I wanted him to have the best help. But then I quickly realized, I would do a much better job. And a lot of it's a hard balance because you really want someone involved in the day-to-day operations of the team that could best represent you, that could best sell you, that can pitch every video, that knows the ins and outs really well, versus somebody who has a huge roster. So you really have to weigh that. But to answer your question, I've been doing this for 2 years full time now. So he had a different manager just for a few months when he first started, but I've been really doing this a long time, and I've pivoted, our entire strategy as we've, as a small creator, now that we've become much bigger, and everything along the way.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's pretty interesting because John has a background that he kind of is a tech insider, right? He worked at
Yeah.
YouTube and Instagram, and then he also gives a lot of keynote speaks, different talks and interviews. And now I see that the channel has becoming kind of almost deep diving into how Dude Perfect, how Mr. Beast, how they kind of channel their creativity and then bring their storytellings to life. And then you said you came from a real estate background, 10 plus years there. So what are some things that you have to learn now, being in the Creator COO role versus unlearn? Maybe there are similarities, maybe there are more
Yeah.
differences.
Yeah, it's funny enough. I mean, a big thing I've had to fight is imposter syndrome being in this role, but it's pretty much the same job in a lot of ways, which is funny because a real estate manager or a creator manager, they're both managers of somebody, of an asset, of something. And so for decades, I was looking at insurance, I was managing vendors, I was getting, I was bidding out, I was negotiating. So a lot of it really plays into part. What I really had to learn was just the different types of terms, of what I was negotiating. So like in real estate, for example, right, I'm negotiating the term of the lease or the tenant improvement, like the project or how big the renovation is, all the different terms of the lease. And now I'm negotiating specific creator terms. So when people watch a video or an ad, I don't know how much they think about the different just how detailed the thing, like exactly where the placement is, the length of the video, the script, the link in bio. So all these little things I've really had to learn the weeds of the creator niche specifically. But a lot of the skills were already there, which I didn't know when I first started. But I've really taken to this pretty naturally. And we've been making a great team together.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting parallel because I have some friends that transitioned from being a software engineer to a commercial real estate agent. So you kind of you jump from the other side, right? You negotiate, like there's also negotiation skills, right? So you negotiate with different vendors, and now you negotiate with different partners and look at terms.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. And then you talk about imposter syndrome. So how did you overcome that imposter syndrome? That maybe you realize, oh, you work with people around you, they came from, let's say, creator management
Yeah,
space, you didn't, but then there are more similarities than you thought, right?
just doing it and even talking to a lot of managers, I realized like there's a lot of, first of all, in the creator space, this is a relatively new industry.
Mm-hmm.
And so 2 years could be a long time, even though the
That's
whole
true.
industry, you can say, is, the biggest creators are probably 10 years old. And the ones that started 20 years ago, a lot of them are retiring, already burnt out or off the platform. So,
That's true.
so,
That's true.
so it's a
Yeah.
pretty new space, a lot of young people. So I don't feel that, even though it's new, I don't feel that new specifically. And in
Mm-hmm.
terms of fighting imposter syndrome, I talk to huge creators. A lot of them have millions of views and they're struggling getting brand deals. And, I'm proud to say I've closed the deal on John doesn't have a single video in the last 2 years that doesn't have a brand deal. Some of them have 2 videos, some of them have 3.
That's impressive. Yeah.
And so I've never, and that's why it's good to be internal, because just the hustle, or to have a stakeholder in the business, right? There's so much coordinating. We reach a creator that tells us to fly out, come interview us in 2 days. I have 2 days to get a brand deal. So maybe I'm making 300 phone calls around the clock overnight, just trying to get it done. And if you don't, if you're not that invested, or if you have 20 other clients, it's just, you're not going to do that in the same way that I would.
Right.
And,
Right. Yeah.
and just all the details that really go into it. It's not just about the dollar amount. There's just, these contracts could be 50 pages long. And so it's funny. I feel like an accountant and a lawyer and an insurance broker, like so many, just coordinating all these different pieces sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. I guess, so as you said, you kind of wear many hats. And then by doing it, you realize, oh, there are transferable skills I have from my previous role that I realized, oh, that comes in handy. And then when you talk to bigger creators, you also realize it sounds like everybody could have shared the same struggle, right? Or, see how other people overcome their challenges also helps you with your perspective.
Yeah,
That's
and
great.
I think and particularly, I think what's interesting, if you're thinking about, like, how do people get into this operations or management role, I find creators are obviously, they're really focused on the creative, right? That's their number one focus. They want to make an engaging video. And if your mind is so creative, it's almost the inverse of being operationally focused, right? Because
Right. Yeah.
you're not trying to make it as fast as possible, as cheap as possible. You're just, and you don't want garbage that's done efficiently, but you do need a balance, because at the end of the day, this is a business. And so, before, one thing, I am proud of is this last, Mr. Beast video, or I don't know if you saw John's MKBHD video. We turned that around in a week, right? Our previous,
In a week. Oh, okay. That's impressive. Wow. Okay. I mean, putting the editing and everything. Yeah.
I mean, depends on your level of production, but right, we're renting a studio. I've got multiple videographers. I have editors around the world. And so, and before that, it was, it took 2 months. And so, those are my skills. Right now, I have a dedicated intro editor, and then I have a story editor, and then I have a graphics editor. I have people working on everything simultaneously, and I'm always monitoring how fast are we getting it done, and always hiring. So I'm, I found local people we could work with much faster, give feedback to, templatizing everything. And so that, just as much as, people don't think about that, if you want to be a creator and pump out videos, efficiency and top talent really matter a lot. And that's kind of where I step in. John's the idea guy. He's doing all the research and, and making sure the content is amazing. But I don't know if it would get, it just wouldn't get done, and it would be way too expensive without having this mindset as well.
I like that. I mean, after all, it's running a business, right? I think people, when we look at YouTube videos, we don't really imagine, oh, there's a whole 5, 10, even 20 people. I think Mr. Beast's team is even larger, right? Like, there could be how many people working on this video, and it takes so much craft, but it also takes a lot of like editing coordination. It just, as you said, efficiency is pretty much helps the business running, right?
And things I learned is, like, an editing specialist, right? Some people are like really good at graphics. Some people are really good at doing story edits. Some people are really good at intros and audio design. So there's just, these are things I'm really learning, just to, all these special skills that people have.
Definitely. And then for some of the audience who might not know, you and John are also husband and wife team.
Yes.
Right? So I think that comes in very handy. So what are some?
That's why I had imposter syndrome, because that's why I got the job.
I see. So kind of like you realize, oh, it works really well that you guys are already partner in life and for life, right? Why not joining forces in the creativity journey as well? But what are some surprises you have? You realize, oh, okay, I didn't imagine, oh, this is how it works the best, with my husband. Or you maybe figure out a way how you can I don't know if you separate work and life,
Yeah,
chat and
I
stuff.
mean,
Yeah.
the biggest problem is we work around the clock. As before we
Mm.
started recording, I was saying I tried to have like just 3 days for the long weekend. We worked around the clock the entire time, and we
Yeah.
work. It's really bad. We have no work-life balance, and something I really want to work
That's tough. Yeah, that's tough.
But in terms of, just getting along and making business decisions, it works really well because, there's a line. Anything
Mm.
that's operational, that's running the business, that has to do with overseeing budgets, or, hiring, that all falls into my arena. Versus
Mm.
John makes all creative decisions. So, I'll watch videos, I'll help edit, I'll make cuts. But John's going to veto those decisions versus on the inverse, if every time we have a shoot, I'm hiring a local crew.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to decide who we're hiring. That's another thing I've learned is just what equipment we're using, how to, I've gotten much better at selecting vendors. In Greenville, we hired a local crew. That was great. Or John just interviewed Hacksmith. They found a local crew in Toronto. So,
Mm.
those are my decisions, what we're paying them and who we're hiring. And so we don't, I guess it works well because he knows that's my decision and vice versa. So
Yeah.
if there's an argument, we know who's the final decision maker, and that's just how it goes.
I like that because it sounds like you also have a good boundary, right? You would say, hey, this is your territory, this is my territory. And then you each have your own specialty, right? You can give each other feedback and opinions, but ultimately in your own domain, there is one decision maker that helps to keep the glue,
Otherwise it
help glue
wouldn't
things
work.
together.
But
Right.
honestly, it's not even an issue because he knows, I know he knows what I'm better at, and we have different skills. So even though we give input, it just, there's no arguments at all in that way because we're both just better at our jobs. So,
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. So the kind of the pivot the topic a little bit. I think now AI, right, is a big buzzword, right? Like there are so many AI tools, so many AI startups, right? We see Nvidia's that's really selling the gold shovel, that their market cap is like increasing so much. And then for creators, AI also is a big topic. So I don't know how do you guys feel about like challenges that maybe from John's perspective, from your teams, or just from industry perspective, how are you guys embracing this new AI wave? What are some tools? Where do you feel like, I don't think creators will be replaced by AI. I think we still need that authenticity, right? Maybe, what are some of your opinions in this age of AI?
Yeah, I'm excited about AI. Honestly, for us, it's just, a lot of people talk about this, they're afraid of it, but I'm just excited about it. I think like most creators, we use it to generate a lot of ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Helping with scripting, helping with thumbnails. So we just use it basically as, right now as just like to help with concepts and ideas and to phrase things better, titles, all kinds of things. So it's really just a tool. I know Sora came out and like for B-roll footage, that could be crazy. I'm just really excited about it. The one thing that could be scary is as AI gets better, maybe people's jobs will be replaced. Not creators per se, but their support teams as it gets better.
Right. Yeah.
But we're not anywhere near there, and anyone who's using AI is using a lot of human assistance right now.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a great tool, and we're happy to have it there to help us.
Yeah, I think there are two attitudes. You either run away from it, where you catch up to learn the latest tool. I think there's a startup called HiGen, and then they basically, you record a video in English, right? Then they can translate into different languages. I think that's like a pretty awesome tool that for creators like John, if you want to reach global audience, in their native language without, dubs
Yeah, I
and
actually
stuff. I
spent a
think.
month like trying, I don't know,
Okay.
every dubbing tool there was.
Okay.
And it's really cool. You can do a clone voice. And it uses the creator's voice in multiple different languages. But if you use AI by itself right now, it's still just not there.
Okay.
And even if it translates pretty good, there's awkward pauses. It sounds robotic. So right now, I mean, people are using it, but a lot of the hiring creators they're paying for a human assistance. Still behind the AI. I think it'll get there. But and you can still use it by itself. There's just, some people don't mind because it's an inexpensive solution and you can still understand what's being said, but the quality is just not, not there. For the Mr. Beast interview, we actually just used 11 labs. So, we had to send them different audio stems. We had to remove the background music. So they had a whole team working to,
Wow. Okay.
to make sure the dubbing was quality. But yeah, it's really exciting for creators and especially new creators just to have, an option that they could just translate stuff just like that.
Do you have any favorite AI related tools on top of your mind since we're talking about this topic that you as a creator manager and COO of the studio that you find that's really helpful for you or your team's productivity?
Yeah, I mean, right now, like I said, we just used 11 labs, and that was just, I worked with someone who worked, and they just, they helped me send all the files, like to coordinate with all my editors to pull everything they needed to do it. And so, we'll see how that goes. But all the tools that I tried, just, we didn't want to put out something where the translation wasn't good. And after trying 20 tools, a lot of them are really good. I'm not, but they're just not, yeah. There's still some work.
I hear you. I think there's still some catch up to do, right? Like for me, I think it's pretty easy to spot like these LinkedIn AI comments. People respond, but it's very obviously there's lack of humor. There's like sentence structure that looks very, very rigid. Yeah, so I totally hear you. I think, these are definitely tools that can help you save time. Like growing to reach broader
one
audience.
great use is like we use it for our newsletter just to like rephrase ideas or titles or and it's super helpful. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm. So if you had a typical day, I understand, just like product managers, I think, in the creator world, every day is a little different. But if you can imagine a typical day, what would your day look like? Like, how do you manage your time, manage your team's time? For PMs, let's say we might run meetings, we might talk to customers and have engineer like scrum meetings. So these are kind of like must do, no matter what kind of PM you have. I think there's always a certain things you have to get it done as a product manager. So you as a creator manager, what are some typical things that happen in your day if there was a typical day?
I find it's a bit chaotic, right? Because our schedules and our workload is really tied to what interviews are coming out next. And that's tied to brand and that's tied to the talent we're interviewing. So sometimes it's kind of a circus where, okay, we have a video coming out. Okay, the whole team's working around the clocks and sometimes even pulling all-nighters. And then it's not a typical week, but quite often because every time we have a video come out, it's a bit nuts. But regularly, we use Notion. We have meetings every Monday. I mean, my focus is really on brand deals. So I'm doing between the outreach, but some of this could be, reaching out to hundreds of brands. I'm pitching. Something that's interesting is I've noticed a lot of the bigger agencies, I mean, they'll sign talent, right? And then they exclusively represent that talent. They don't know what the videos are coming out. They're just saying, if you want to work with X creator, go through us. I don't know, but my theory is it's harder to pitch because maybe if you're a huge creator, they'll take any video you come out, right? But like I'm writing, detailed briefs about what's being covered in the interview, how the specific brand is going to benefit. Like, is it, we just did a brand deal with Shopify. Okay, they want to work with creators that use Shopify that are selling products. And so, so I'm doing custom pitches so that takes a lot of time, just outbound. And developing relationships. I've actually, now I use a CRM system to do that, to make it much more efficient. And then, just negotiating all the terms and the agreements and that's every day, at least that's the few hours a day. And then, and then just what, I'm managing our finances all the time. The big thing is just, I mean, it sounds like, why is this so related to the creator economy? But, before I started doing it, we were spending double and triple. So now, I've gotten our cost down by half because I'm on profitability by every single video. So yeah, that's my day. I mean, I guess that we, I don't have a great answer for this, but we divide our tasks. We have meetings every day, and we just have specialists working on their roles and, deadlines, and I set draft deadlines, and I'm just trying to wrangle everyone in as best as possible. But ultimately, a lot of it's out of our control because we have so many moving pieces.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's a mix of being a salesperson, right? You do outreach, you sign deals, and also like a project manager because you have to coordinate with schedules and then make sure the deadlines are hit and then make sure different projects are tagging along, like there are different progress being made. But maybe they even a little bit on the product side. I guess John will be taking on the product side, so he will be defining what stories wants to be told in the interviews and who he wants to interview and interact in the future. Okay.
Yeah, that's more. And then my third role is I act kind of like a producer, right? Where I'm I'm getting all the talent around John for every single shoot.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yes,
The
definitely that's like four or five roles in one. You have to define your own path. I think that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I mean, whatever has to be done. That's what I do.
Just get it done. I like the attitude. I think that's honestly that's what really matters, right?
Well,
if you
we're a
want
small
to
team, and
right.
And the shoots just cost a fortune, and so
Yeah.
Sometimes I write the newsletter. I even write I'll write the content. Not often, but if something just whatever needs to be done. I just John also has a course that he that he's doing every week. So I help prepare some of the materials for that. But yeah, the most of it is operation. That's why I'm leaning so heavily into that. Right now, I've been working on an accounting software, which just seems funny. But I mean, one of my big takeaways was just all these creators, like they don't seem they're all paying attention to their finances enough. Just what I've seen, and that's what really changed everything for us. Just getting in the weeds of my costs for everything, and that's how we make it work.
Yeah.
So when I sell something now, okay, I can sell a video for half, like an explainer video that's filmed in our studio, right? I don't need to rent a set. I don't need to fly out a whole team. I don't need like 6 camera guys. It's just we have our cameras inside in our studio in our house, so that I could sell those for half, and just understanding that has changed the game. So I think, and I think that could be interesting. And I don't think a lot of bookkeeping or accounting are really focused on specifically per video, right? It's very general. And so you'd have no way to know what that is unless you're spending hundreds of hours doing that.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because there's one thing is grow your following, but there's another thing is like watch your back, right? Make sure you don't spend way too much producing fancy, expensive videos. That's not sustainable, right? I think for any business, you want to make sure it's profitable, right? It's bringing value to the audience, but also bringing value to the team, right?
So, it's hard, though, right? Because you want the quality to be exceptional. So I don't know if I'm indexing too hard. I'm saying I'm not trying to be cheap. I'm just trying to get the best quality as fast.
Quality,
yeah.
No, I hear you. It's always a trade-off, but again, it's running a business, so you want to make sure you can reach a great audience, but also being conscious of how much you're spending. So that's
sometimes we offset
for long term.
Those costs in other ways, just courses and consulting, or speaking. Like there's we're very aware of all those decisions every time we make.
Yeah. Let's change the gear a little bit. So who are your favorite creators besides John? I don't know if you follow a lot of people, but I mean, you also interact with these big names on a pretty frequent basis.
It's cool. I mean, I've been on set with a lot of these big creators. One of my favorite experiences was in Arkansas. We, John did an interview with Jude Perfect, and just meeting these guys. Like, I don't even know what I said, but I almost forgot who they were for a second because they're, they what do they have, like 60 million followers?
They're pretty big, and then they build a whole
new area. They're such nice guys, like
down to earth,
like they're dads, and they're just like hanging out, and I don't know, they were really awesome. In terms of someone that that inspires me, I love Cody Sanchez. She's really built this amazing business, and I think, and it's beyond being a creator, right? She's really built. She owns businesses, and her goal is to help people empower themselves, through being owners themselves. I just really like her message and what she's all about. And I look at her as more than a creator, but yeah.
So I hear you. I think it's about the brand image and again the values these creators are bringing, and then also it's even bonus as Dude Perfect. These guys are really down to earth, right? So it's not like, oh, they're out of touch, out of the real world, but they are just like you and I, right? When you work with them, okay.
Yeah, or just the things they care about. I think like during their early years, they got offered some big brand deals from alcohol companies, and that just didn't go with their values. So the fact that they turned down all these major brand deals to stick to their image, and now they're launching the streaming service that is for kids, and they're just really have good values, and the fact that they've made it sticking to those values, I think is just super inspiring.
Yeah, I like that. I watched that interview between John and Dude Perfect. I think there's like behind the scene that you had to go to Home Depot to buy those string of lights, right?
Yeah, and
That
also
really shows that you have to go out of your way.
Yeah, we're like at 6 a.m. We're preparing for that interview for like, I don't know, hours and hours, and they come in, they got like 20 minutes. That's it. It's over. So that was
a lot of preparations going into
just like running around. It's hard when you're in a new city too, where you don't know anybody, and it's really hard to figure out all the moving pieces.
Yeah. One last question is that what are some advice you have for people who aspire to be in the creator management and operation space? Is there anything that you wish your younger self would have known, or just maybe something that you wish you should have done more when you first entered the space?
I mean, you just really learn through experience, but I think it's important to really have the skills, and either working with someone who's doing it, or like I managed a building. That was really the best training I could possibly get. So I guess if I was starting today, I'd really want to, instead of learning slower, you can learn faster, reviewing all these agreements, knowing what's being negotiated, and there's so many pieces that I think you could really familiarize yourself with them. And if you're going to approach a creator, I think if you sound really educated about all these terms and all these things, even entertainment lawyers who work in the creative space, it's a legal job in a big way. So that combined with hustle, is that's what I would do. I'd just be really prepared before.
I feel like
getting a job is like almost harder than knowing how to do it, and because there's only so many creators, and a lot of them are tied to management, and so you really have to know what you're talking.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think almost like your past life that had helped you transition to this job easier.
Yeah, and I think if I was hiring anybody, I'd want someone who has previous operational skills, like maybe in a startup, just someone who knows how to run a business, because that's what this is. It's way more than just signing deals.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like you could start a course as well. There are a lot of creator-facing courses, but people don't talk about like the sweat, maybe even tears behind running those businesses, right? It's not just like you
they just like want it to work. I'm like, do people care enough like of all the I get to do all this stuff that creators don't want to do, essentially.
I mean, I think that's like the backbone of any business. I think that's how you have the foundation, right? Front facing, having the camera is great, right? You need that persona, the brand, but running a business efficiently, managing time efficiently, and as you said, negotiating on the different terms with different vendors, or finding the best people to have a quick turnaround. I think a week, that's definitely insane. I think that's people don't think about, right?
Or just designing all your testing everyone, designing all kinds of hiring templates. Like, it takes a lot of time.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, Amanda.